faces if you have four. Okay, I'll tell them.
There are many cameras. There's one over there, and there's one over there. Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming tonight. On behalf of Legs Malone and Clams Casino and myself, we're thrilled that this has come together, and we're very excited that you're all here, and we're so excited that all of you on stage are here tonight. Thank you all so much for taking part. And thank you to James and everybody at the Slipper Room for hosting this evening. And we basically, the three of us put this together because we really wanted to be in the audience to hear it, and we're very excited to have this happening. I will mention a couple of things about how things are going to run tonight. Dr. Lucky, who could not be more appropriate to be our moderator as the PhD of burlesque, is going to be sort of running the show a little bit, and we've given her some format to work with. First of all, so everybody knows, behind me and in front of me, everybody's going to have a chance to have about 3 minutes, which I know is very short, but we're trying to have as much time as possible to talk about everything we want to talk about. We'll have about 3 minutes. What?
I have to do 2 if it's 3.
You'll have 3 minutes to introduce yourself and talk very briefly about sort of how you ended up sitting on this stage, and individually, and then we have some topics that Lucky's going to sort of bring up to start a discussion. After that, we're going to end with some questions from the audience. Now, Legs has paper and pens, and so just to kind of keep things moving and maximize our time, rather than having like people raise their hands and ask questions from the crowd, if you have a question that you'd like to make sure we hopefully get to, depending on how many we end up with, write it down, fold it in half, send it back to us, and we're going to be having them given to the group towards the end of the night. So I think that's it. Thank you again, everybody, and let's. And this mic is for all of you guys to pass around and use individually, and I think we're all set. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for inviting me. I have this wonderful position here of having to keep all of you beautiful people who I would just like to sit here and listen to you talk all night, to keep you down to 3 minutes. So I apologize in advance, and I look forward to what you have to say. It's their fault, though. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bambi the Mermaid, Queen of Coney Island. I produce Burlesque at the Beach, which is the crown jewel of the New York burlesque scene. I've co-produced along with the great Fredini for this is my 12th year, and we look at it more as a curatorial position rather than actually producing shows individually. What we do is we curate the entire season by inviting all the pre-existing shows in New York, the long-running shows, the newer shows, as many as we can fit with our allotted time slots in order that everyone can basically have a show or a chance to perform at Coney Island. And we're really proud of that, and as everyone hopefully knows, everyone brings their very best, most innovative, wonderful acts out there every summer, so that keeps me pretty busy in the summer, and I do all the other shows, I'm sure, with everybody else, so. Is that it? Bye.
Wait, no.
Yes? Oh, bye. Here's
Is
Rose.
there something you want to add, Julie, to
She's also
Bambi's
a
biography?
fabulous visual artist and does pinup photography, and she does she has cards. She's got it going on.
Actually, you do have 2 minutes left. Do you want to tell anyone about your freak pinup series?
Yay.
More things to say?
Does everyone know Bambi's freak pinup series?
Yes.
Who's never heard of it before? All right, so the website is cornstar.com. CORNSTAR, and these images are all about the juxtaposition of monstrosity and pinup beauty, all within the circus sideshow sensibility, and they're really brilliant.
Hi everybody, my name is Rose Wood. Let's see, what to say. I think I started doing burlesque around the year 2000. I was dancing in tranny/transsexual clubs, and I won a striptease contest. And I decided there must be something more. There had to be a next level, next world. And it was then I met Miss Dirty Martini, who I hold blameless, but she kind of brought me into this world, kind of this way, you know. Helped me get my footing, and for which I'm ever grateful. And over the years, for me, it's been a great process of self-discovery, and I've come to focus on kind of shock, horror, gender, terrorism, audience, startling, and disdain, and that sort of thing. I guess that's like 45 seconds already. I've been very fortunate over the last year to have an extended run in one club, which has helped me to really go deeper into what it is that I do, and to be more self-defined in that way. It has its pluses and minuses, to be sure, which is gender-related performance. And as well, I run a business in antique restoration, which has been great help in making props and all that sort of thing. And let's see, I also run a yoga center in my spare time. And I've enjoyed also through the community working with different people just in all different capacities. There's been a very rich field of talents and abilities, and just by working with many of the people and just even hearing their comments and talking to them, for me, has been a tremendously rewarding thing. I can say that virtually everybody who's sitting on the stage has been a profound influence for me in terms of what I do, and inspiration, and just learning more about myself and what it is that's actually going on. God, I could just go down and start talking about each one of them probably longer than I could talk about myself. So I think that's it.
Hi, my name's World Famous Bob, and I'm a tanorexic, granny chasing F to F baby woman. That's my personal ad. I'm single. And I started doing burlesque in gay bars, which is also where I learned how to walk. And I started doing it on accident. I just got so drunk that my tits kept falling out, and then I made it into a career. And I was really excited. I'm nightclub trained. Point of pride, I lived in a car. It's very fascinating. I left home when I was 15 and a half. I lived in a Camaro with a 6'4", I've been corrected, new wave homosexual hairdresser. And Brand, yeah, he's super hot. If you're gonna live in a car with a dude, if you're gonna be homeless with a dude in a car, it should be a hot, gay, new wave 6'4" hairdresser and a Camaro. Those are my words of wisdom, because if it's anything else, it's probably not something you should talk about. And I'm really excited. I've been doing burlesque for 12 years on purpose, and it's been really fun. And I'm also a teacher at Jo Boob's School of Burlesque here in New York City. I'm very proud of that. And the most important thing I like to talk about in burlesque are the legends and the people who have come before me. So it's really exciting that you guys have gathered tonight to listen to us, because we're a couple steps behind you. That's really exciting to me. But it's only by really honoring the history that we can even create the present, let alone the future of something. So I'd like to encourage everybody in the audience to go home tonight and look up Exotic World and research Dixie Evans. She's the Marilyn Monroe of burlesque. She's 82 years old, and she looks kind of like a poodle. And I super love her, so if you have like an extra $20 or even 5 minutes to write her a card telling her she's great, you should do that. Okay, thanks.
Hi, I'm Dirty Martini. I'm so happy to be here with all these beautiful people that I am really pleased to call my friends, and honored also. Thank you for doing this. It's very nice. And I love you people out there too. I started doing burlesque kind of not by accident. I did it pointedly because I was a dance major in college and also leaning toward feminist studies as well. Although I don't have a double major, I did my best to do that. And so I'm probably one of the only graduating people in my class from Purchase College that is actually doing exactly what they went to college for. And it all kind of happened because of all these people on the stage right now, and the fact that, like Bob said, there were so many people that had burlesque sensibility in New York City when I came here. I learned from drag queens. I didn't belong in that world at the time, and I didn't know what to do. And I also learned from all of these lovely people as we grew up together. And I'm still learning, I'm happy to say. I'm still happy to see everything that new people bring to it as well. And yeah, I started my first burlesque number as Dirty Martini was at Wow Cafe on 4th Street with Tex and Trixie's vaudeville review. And then my first, like when I met most of the people here, was at the Red Vixen, which was curated by Selena Vixen. That's where I met most everyone. And that's it.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Dunn. I started burlesque in 1925. Yeah. It seems like that. It seems like that. I run the show Lace Scandal, and it's been going for about 8 years. And I have the gray hairs to show it. I do, but it's a lot of fun. And I started in burlesque, I think with the Blue Angel. Yeah, and that was around 1994. And it was this quirky kind of Fellini-esque, I don't know how to describe it, Times Square sex shop meets Fellini meets John Waters kind of thing happening. And Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights they had the cabaret night. So it was just kind of a free flow craziness. Whoever walked in the door and did an act was allowed on stage kind of thing. So it was like a great place for this kind of free artistic expressionism. And before that, I don't know what else to say before that. I was roaming around the country doing cabaret work, singing in nightclubs and hotels and strange and exotic places. And now what I do during my spare time is, besides pick my toenails, is I'm starting to teach yoga, so if anybody would like a private or a yoga class, come to Mama.
I have one, it's really nice, I recommend it.
And I do sub at the Lighthouse, the School for the Blind, the little ones, the 5-year-olds. So I have a really diverse life, I guess. Can I have another drink, please?
Hi, I'm Tigger, and I talk too much.
Time.
Go! Okay. My first word as a baby was go-go, swear to God. And pretty much it just followed from there. And there's little photos of me as a little kid in like diapers and my sister's white go-go boots. And I stripped for my sister's slumber parties because her friend Nancy Lee wanted to practice drawing penises and whatever. You know, it was just sort of faded. And you know, there was several of us that sort of started trying to make up some stuff, and obviously it would have been impossible without the whole burlesque history happening, but we weren't really, I wasn't really thinking about that consciously so much as all the other influences. I was doing downtown experimental theater and Like to Get Naked, and I loved seeing the fucking genius drag queens at Pyramid out of Black Lips and Floyd and Taboo. A salute to Taboo is why I put the exclamation point on for one reason anyway. And the circus performers and the stripper girlfriends who had dreams of, you know, West Side Story or whatever, and they wound up shaking, you know, their titties at a bar. And they started getting the chance to fuck around with expressing themselves a little better than they usually would at a club that became known as Fallen Angel, which became Blue Angel, and the rest sort of becomes history. Yeah. So it's all diverse, you know, circus, drag, stripper stuff, I guess, so my drag moms. But this is my fucking drag family, and, you know, I sort of just made up shit in the void for the first year, but if I've grown at all, it's because of these people on the stage. So, that's all.
I'm going to try and use my whole 3 minutes.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Kate Valentine, and thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this. And of course, I'm thrilled to be on the stage with all these people that I love a lot. Okay, well, I never thought I would find myself here doing this, although there was sort of indications, I guess. I come from a family of artists. I started out when I was a kid. My dad's an actor, and my mom's parents are both actors. So I started out in the theater and backstage with people naked and swearing and smoking. So that always felt like home. And I was a pretty introverted kid, but I was also a nudist, like shy and nude, which is a really, really gross combination. And when I was a little kid, I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in Boston and New York, but we used to go and visit my fancy family out in Los Angeles, and they had a swimming pool, so I was naked all the time, kind of too old to be cute naked. It was kind of like 10 naked. And my grandmother said, "Girl, you look like Sally Randall without the fans." She was Jamaican, but that's another story. So I had no idea what that meant, but I guess it's somewhat prophetic. I went to NYU, and I was a double major in dance and cultural anthropology. Cultural anthropology being my safety. So you understand how impractical my family was, and I moved out to Los Angeles to be an actress, and I was not really acting. I was auditioning a lot, and I was dancing with a Horton-based dance company. Not a Horton, here's a who. Alvin Ailey Horton, come on girl, work with me. So, anyway, so I wound up seeing flyers in my neighborhood for auditions for a burlesque troupe. In 1996, which I joined, called the Velvet Hammer, out of Los Angeles. And so that was the first time I started doing striptease. I was, at that time, stripping under the name Ruby Valhalla. And I did that for a couple of years with them, but in 1997 I started my own show called the Baba Boom Room, and created an MC persona for myself named Miss Astrid. And mostly, it's not that cute of a story, but mostly it was that I was a really frustrated actress, and I wanted to do something out of type. You know what I mean? Like I was auditioning for like young moms with red hair, and I wanted to not do that, so I did something completely different. So my show ran for about a year in Los Angeles, and then I moved back to New York in '98, and has been running sort of on and off ever since. With many of these people became my sort of family. Oh yeah, there was some San Francisco crap in there at some point. So anyways, what do I want to say? I guess, are my 3 minutes up?
close. So that's what I want to say. Thank you. Good night and goodbye.
Hi, thank you guys very much. Thank you all. So I was a child and shy nudist as you were. And by the way,
Your name is Atlas Muz.
yeah, I'm Atlas Muz. So like as a child, Kate and I had the same imaginary friend, Mr. Nobody, which we discovered later on in life, go figure. And I was also a shy nudist, and I also fell in love with Cats, the musical. I saw that when I was about 7, and for me it was the perfect combination of everything. There was dance, there was drag, there was hairdos, there was makeup, and everyone was a cat. So that made me really happy, and it was one of the big inspirations in my life. Then I moved to New York City after completing a degree in dance and history at Oberlin College, and I was like, I'm gonna go be an experimental dancer and actress. I was, and an arts administrator for many, many years, and then I was in a show called Gray Language with this red-headed librarian who is always late. Always. At that time, you're not late now. But at that time, it was like, show starts in 20 minutes. Where's James? And that's how we were like, where's James? And then he would like run in. You played a nun, right?
A Nazi torture doctor.
A Nazi torture doctor. Same thing. Same thing. And then like my makeup, and I had to play this horrible Judge Dirty saw the show. It was terrible.
We're so sorry.
It was terrible, terrible show. It was called, it was part of the TS 2000 festival. It's called Gray Language. I'm trying to block it out of my mind. And then, like, so then I met Tigger, and then this woman came up to me with an Australian accent. She's like, Julie, I'm doing a show. My name's Selena Vixen, called the Red Vixen Burlesque. And I was like, well, would you like to be a part of it? And I said, well, what's burlesque? And she basically brought it down to me in like a sentence. It was like, you start naked or end naked, and you dance to a song. That's cool by me. I'm part of the MTV generation. Yo, booyah. So the first time we did the show, actually, was the first time that we did a duet, too. Where I was like, I heard the song called Teach Me Tigger, and you're a Tigger, so why don't we do a dance together? And it was totally impromptu. It's the first time you stripped to too? Yo, man, Mr. Nobody, shy and naked? So like, and then I developed this character named Hard Candy, She'll Kill You with Sweetness. Terrible burlesque character. Better character for, you know, whatever, for like comic book. And then I met Dirty Martini there, and I met, I didn't meet you there. I met you there, I didn't meet you there. I think I met Bonnie, I met you there. Tigger and I did it. And Kate ran one time, like the show, you bitches gotta understand. Show ran for like 3 or 4 years on Sunday night and nobody came. Nobody came. They only came when there was a 3-day weekend and it was like Columbus Day, and then like everyone would come and your drug dealers would come and they would tip you. And they would tip you 20s. I'd be like, who's that? Oh, he's my drug dealer. He's tipping us 20s. Ooh. And Kate came up to me one day. I didn't know who she was. She was like, I want you to be part of my show, the Baba Boom Room. And I was such a fucking snot. I was like, do you have a press release? Which I did. And she gave me. So then I went and I did, and then that was when there was like, oh, 2 burlesque shows. Because by that time the Blue Angel had been kaput. You know, like the Red Vixen the Blue Angel and the Red Vixen had a brief time, and maybe there was a feud. I wasn't really paying attention. You tell me, you give me 10-second warning.
I messed up and I forgot to press go. Only for Julie though. So she might take 1 or 2 minutes of other people's time. But we're getting there. Sorry
And so then, you know, blah, 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 blah. I kept on taking off my clothes, but I have to say it was very important for me to be able to, at the beginning, work on Sunday nights with no pressure and no expectation and and very little audience, except for every once a month or once every 2 months we would have a lot of audience, and then I would have like material that was tried, tested, and true on the stage. It wasn't that I just made it up in my apartment and then did it because you could tell, because you know your boyfriend would come every once in a while, or like there would be the core group of people, and that's what really, I have to say, did all. And also we would all watch each other, and like I remember the first time I met Scotty, the Blue Bunny, I was doing a number, and I was like, Scotty, how do I look? I swear to God, this is exactly what he said. He's like, your skirt's too long and your shirt's too loose. So he was right. So anyway, I'm done.
Hi, I'm Jo Weldon, and I feel like I get to talk all the time, like because I blog and stuff. But I feel like a lot of what you just said about performing when it was dead makes a lot of sense to me because I come from strip joints, and a day shift and strip joints. When there's nobody in there, some fucked up shit goes on in that stage, and that's kind of what kept me going. But I stripped for a living, meaning I paid my rent only with money that I earned working in strip joints for 15 years. So it's like really like this huge part of my identity, and I'm all weird about it, and sometimes people are like, oh God, So, but it's a big thing for me because like I originally got into burlesque. Originally got into stripping, having come from Rocky Horror, where I could do all this whack shit and be this poetry reciting stripper underage and all that, and have a boa, and have them come in and go, no. But what I loved is the first time that I looked up on the stage at the girl in the strip joint, she had this big, gross-looking, fluffy green thing on her leg, and I was like, what is... And I got up close, and it was money. I was like, I'll wear that. So that was my main thing. But then, I had an injury. I was making costumes, and these girls kept having me make these insane costumes. I'm like, where are you wearing these breakaway bridal gowns and gloves with wings attached and space girl costumes? They go, oh, I'm a feature dancer. I was like, oh, I'll do that. Which means you do porn, and then you have enough credits to be a feature dancer, and you tour around meeting a new strip joint owner every week, which sucks. And I didn't like that, but I loved the performing. And it's more like I loved coming up with the acts almost more than doing them, which is still kind of true for me. But I didn't like touring around like that. I decided to move to New York, and I came here and I started working in the fetish industry, which is a euphemism, okay? And I was working in the fetish industry, and I was doing fetish shows and what have you. And I met Bambi, and Bambi's like, oh, you should come to Coney Island. We're doing burlesque shows there. I was like, sure, you're doing burlesque shows. Because I did my very first ostrich feather fan dance in a strip joint in the early 90s at this thing called the Battle of the Cheetah Girls, which is amazing. And I didn't win because the girl that won came in dressed like Cleopatra, carried on a litter, dressed by 4 World Federation wrestlers painted gold. And she had a big old snake, and she was an awesome dancer, and all besides that, it wasn't just the gimmick, she had skills as well, which is always a nice combination. But, Bambi got me to come out to Coney Island, and I saw, now I knew Bob from Coney Island High, because she and my boyfriend and Sean Pierce, if you know Sean Pierce, were doing this, yeah, Sean Pierce. And my boyfriend, we're in the Toilet Boys, and I went to see, I know the Toilet Boys. I still get breathless. But they had that night together, and they had performance out there. Trailer Park was the name of the night, and I had a lot of fun there and performed there. And then I went to Don Hills because I started dating one or more of the Toilet Boys, and and for the first, what can I say? I moved into Sean's bedroom. Did you know that? Yeah. So I started seeing this rock and roll drag thing that I had never seen before. This rock and roll drag. I really hadn't seen it before. Justin fucking Vaughn doing All Tomorrow's Parties dressed like Nico. I'd never seen anything like that. And I was like, anything is possible. Bambi got me out to Coney Island, and I saw the burlesque that y'all were doing there. I was like, I do this, but it takes me 12 minutes. So I started working at the Blue Angel with Bonnie and managed to get my 12-minute acts down into the 3-minute format. And now I run the School of Burlesque, which freaks me out a little. And that's pretty much how I came to be here, because my friends brought me in and everybody was really encouraging, and at first I was self-conscious about being a fake titty stripper doing burlesque, and there were some people who really didn't think that much of it, but everybody here either could not be bothered to even fucking think about it or thought it was interesting that it informed the way I performed. So thank you guys.
Since some of us didn't use their full time, could we do a real quick thing with no explanations and we send the mic back around and everyone say the first number they ever did a burlesque number to?
Yes. This is what we.
It's a fantasy.
This is actually
Go.
our first question.
Oh.
I'm not lying. It's an adaptation of the question I was given, which was, when did you realize you were doing burlesque? And then when I saw Tigger getting all excited, I thought, because a bunch of you actually answered that question already, that it was preconceived, or that it was labeled from outside. So I think this question's great. Let's start with this. So this might actually have to include what your definition of burlesque is, but it doesn't have to. Tell us about what your first burlesque act was, if you can remember. And we'll send. What we're gonna do funness, back and forth, back and forth. We're gonna
like 2 joints. 2 joints.
And I'd also like to say, no more time. Thank you.
So my first burlesque number was, I came from more of the circus sideshow kind of background when there was no real burlesque, and it was out at Coney, so it was like a little bit of nudity mixed in with basically sideshow arts like sword swallowing or bed of nails, or there was the paint-proof rubber girls who were very scantily clad, and technically I was doing snake charming as a mermaid and sort of like stripping out of the tail, but it was kind of the crossover period. But I think my first real burlesque number was Corn Star, you know, where I lay the golden egg. That was like, you know, I consider my signature thing. And I couldn't tell you what song that is actually to. I don't even know what it's called, but it was on that CD Las Vegas Grind, which was like my favorite CD, and I do like 7 acts to like, you know, pretty much every song on that CD I've covered. So that's, you know, Exotica is kind of my thing.
Oh no, Joe.
I don't remember what music I used. So, but I do remember the first song I ever danced to in a strip joint, which was "She's So Cold." But I think my first burlesque number for burlesque audiences, as opposed to like strip joint or fetish audiences or whatever, was my Planet of the Apes thing, and I used the stripper.
We're doing a volley.
Okay, Paul. Harry. The first song that I used was "Turn Your Love Around," and it was on a bar. And stripping, when you're a drag queen stripping for a drag queen appreciating audience, it's a very, very different experience than performing in the burlesque world, because there aren't the same kind of rules. No one feels the sense that they have to keep their hands off you, that your openings aren't perfectly viable places to put money and fingers and anything else they want to. So that very much informed my burlesque, which was to come later when I met Verdi.
I didn't realize it at the time. For me, it was just a short modern dance in which I ended up naked cutting up a sausage with a giant knife. I was going through a very hard period where I was a psycho ex-girlfriend, and I did it with a plum. And it was to the Laws song, "There She Goes."
That's so good. I love that act. My first burlesque number was Martini Time, and it was at the Cock on Avenue A and 12, not where the new Cock is, where the old hole used to be. But
the big fat cock.
Yeah, the big fat Cock. But the original Cock, the Cock, Avenue A and 12th Street, a gay bar. And it was at Foxy, which was a Saturday night party that was super fun. And Jackie Beat My Drag Mother. Every week I performed and I co-hosted this party. So I called up Jackie Beat My Drag Mother and I said, what should I do? How should I show my tits tonight? You know, I was just really a rock and roll faggot tit clown. I wasn't a burlesque dancer, I was a tit clown. That's what I called myself. And I did all the rock and roll parties and I was like the tit clown. So, not really a clown sometimes. But, so I just said, she said, why don't you mix a drink with your tits? They're big enough. Jackie Beat said that, right? So I was like, oh, that's good, that's good. So I originally did it as a rock and roll number to Have a Drink on Me by AC/DC, and I came and I put the shaker in between, and I was all punk rock and like a groupie girl and pulling cherries out of my pussy and shaking Jack Daniels and Coke, and it was really like downtown gritty, raw, rock and roll, not pretty. It was just like, bleh. And then I just like splashed the drink on the crowd, no glass. And a couple months later, I said, oh, I want to do that, but classy. Like, I want to be classy. So I bought probably this wig, and it was like 9 years ago. And I put on a Marilyn wig, and I bought my first Marilyn wig, and that's what did it to me. Like, all of a sudden, I wanted to be a 1950s Hollywood movie star. And so I thought, how can I make a classy drink? And I thought, oh, I'll Have a Drink on Me, but I'll make a martini. So that was how I came up with my first burlesque number.
Okay. I've been naked on stage as a stripper, and I've been naked on stage as a, performance artist, theater crap, something. But I think the first time I auditioned for Velvet Hammer for Michelle Carr and Rita D'Albert at Jabberjaw in South Central, and that was Teach Me Tigger. But I don't think I ever performed that. I did my first number I did was to sort of embarrassing, that the Peer Gynt theme thing that was on that Exotica track.
I was gonna sing it. Come on.
Fuck you, you sing it.
I don't know what you're talking
Ba, 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 ba. I could do it. No. Listen, anyways, my sister made me tearaway leopard pants. Those were kind of, yeah, there was a tearaway thing, so that's what happened. Thanks.
I was working with a group called Pink Ink. They're headed by Deborah Roth. And we had a tour planned to go to Sarajevo, of all crazy places. It was right after the Dayton Peace Accord was signed. And they were opening up the Sarajevo Winter Arts Festival, which previously had only been people that were really close to Sarajevo. It went all through the 4 years of that horrible war that they were fighting all in that area. But they would be underground, and they would be like having an arts festival regardless of sniper fire and all of that stuff. So, I mean, if we think we have it bad as artists in New York City with the rising rent prices, think about walking down the street and maybe getting shot, like by a sniper from Serbia. Like, that's really fucked up. But I was really fortunate to be on this tour. I don't know how it happened, but we made it happen. We got grant money and went. And we were making a show, and we wanted to be all American. I was with a group called the Fortunettes. We were like Bob, female impersonators with these big foam torpedo tits and big butts, and like giant foam wigs made by Garland Farwell, who's a Muppeteer kind of guy. He makes Muppets, like for, what's that guy's name? Jim Henson. And yeah, so we were like kind of volleying around ideas, and I was like, well, I've been watching all these crazy burlesque things, and I love burlesque. Old burlesque is so cool, and all the women are all shapes and sizes, and it's so wild. And so I started bringing in all these tapes to learn, and we did a 20-minute section of our show. I did a fan dance, we did a shadow number, and we did some lip syncing and stuff, cutesy, sexy kind of stuff. And when I picked up those fans, I was kind of like, they happened last minute. It was supposed to be all three of us doing a fan dance, and then Julie's husband, Lunel, made them. He was the tech director of the company, and he's like, here, Dirty, make something up. But you have to use Fever. And I was like, oh, God. It's like really long, and everybody's heard it a million times. I was like, I fucking hate this. But I made a fan dance to Fever, and that I loved it. I couldn't put those goddamn fans down. They were so beautiful. They made me feel like an angel flying in the air, and I loved it. And so a little later on, somebody told me about Tex and Trixie's vaudeville show that was happening at WOW. And I said, I should do that. And my friend's like, yeah, if you already have some burlesque, you should do it. So I took off the crazy suit and took off the crazy wig and put on a Marilyn wig and picked Mel Torme's 42nd Street, which I sang as if he was a woman, which I thought he was, because he sounds like a smoky Peggy Lee, And I was like imagining Mel Torme in a dress, lip syncing. And then I did a fan dance, and then I did, this record came out called Loungecore. It was all kind of new electronica but lounge music. And so I used Kinda Kinky, and I edited it down on my tape recorder. With this is when we had tapes.
Yeah, basic cassettes.
And I edited it down because I'm old. And yeah, and so that was my number. It was a fan dance, and I figured that I'd follow the balletic form of having a coda, and that was the tassel twirling. So I had my long, slow introductory song, and then the coda at the end, and that was my ballet form burlesque number. I don't know if anybody knows when the Dayton Peace Accord was signed. I think it was 96. And I know I was researching it in 95, and I'm pretty sure we went in 96. So that was, yeah, so. And then, damn, I met all these people.
Good, stop touching Scott. Okay. Okay, so right, naked actor, downtown in a NEA crisis of 1990 got me really more into like, I must be naked, it's important. So I got naked a lot, and it sort of became a tag of what I was doing. And then Penny Arcade also made her show Bitch Dyke Dyke Horror that year, and I saw it, and there were real live stripper girls, and you can tell, in the show, in a theater, which I'd never seen before. And I talked to her because her phone number was on every chair, and she came to see my stuff, and we talked. And she asked me to do the expanded version of Bitch Dyke in '92, and she said, I know you're an actor, but you like getting naked, obviously, so act like a stripper. And so I started doing that. So did that, blah, 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 blah. So there's, I don't know, gazillion songs while we did that for a year in New York and a year and a half on the road. So who knows? I did bring in the notion of like there should be a feature, because I like the chorus, but I love being a star too. So it's like we should all have a feature. We should all have a feature. We should pick our song, and then we really tear it up, and then I do whatever I want, pole dancing and go crazy. Anyway, so I brought in lots of songs with that, and a lot of things that later became numbers because they were just fantasy songs of mine. And then coming out of that, blah, 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 go, go, and Scotty the Blue Bunny and Combustible Kiva asked me to do Sinner's Sideshow at Velvet, which was followed by Foxy before it moved to the Cock. So I used to finish my teeny little burlesque show with like me and Scotty and Jennifer Blowdryer and not many others, and about that many in the audience. Totally. And I make like $7 to $12, and it's totally true what Julie was saying, like, it's kind of a gift to get to do it for almost nobody, for almost no money, and work it, and work it, and work it, and work it. And out of that came Father McTigger and Cheap Trick and shit that I just like don't let go of, because I've had a lot of time with them. But that would finish, and then Foxy would come in. So I would watch Bob and Justin Bond and people like be fabulous and like heroes to me, but it took us both a while to realize we were in the same game after all, from both sides. I barely
remember.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. That's true. She was a little, yeah, but you're cute. Anyway, so the very first strip I did was Alice Cooper Is It My Body, because it's always a fantasy to be a rock star, and I'm many things but not a singer. So since I can't really sing for a rock band, I just sort of started picking numbers I'd do if I was a rock star. So I started with Alice Cooper.
Okay, mine's going to sound like therapy, I think, but because it started really, really young. And I spent my formative years in New Orleans, so I used to wander around Bourbon Street. And I was, after school, I think around, 12 years old or something, maybe 10. And it was the late 60s when women wore those heels that were like nails. And her mother, when we were, yes. And I never understood when I would go to her house why her mother was always in bed, and it was 3 o'clock, and my mother was always up like making cookies and, So we would go in and say hello to her mother, and her mother would just, go play. So we had on our pink tights, and we were topless, and there was like 5 girls. Oh my God. And we were dancing to These Boots Are Made for Walking, and her mother came in shit-faced, and she took off her shoe. It's kind of a sad story. It is a little sad, but I think it set me into that path, besides seeing all the burlesque and striptease in New Orleans on Bourbon Street, which really, that is a culture that never really died out. So that was like, you know, my first influence of live, you know, nightclub entertainment. So we were dancing, and her mother came in, drunk as shit, and she took off her shoe, and she started beating everybody with the point of the shoe. So I know it's really tragic, but all the little girls found their clothes and ran out, and I couldn't find mine. I couldn't find my clothes. It was like a nightmare. So I hid naked behind the couch and watched this beating scene, and I know. I feel compelled to, you know, rebel or something and just, you know, take off my clothes. So that was like the informal, you know, formative years. But I would say in go-go bars, pretty much, I think okay, let me just back up a little bit. I'm a professional singer, and I incorporate singing into my burlesque routine, so I always sang in nightclubs, and I don't know, I just had this burlesque sensibility. I was always doing kind of burlesque-y aesthetic to it. And I was go-go dancing in Jersey. I don't recommend it, but it's good to practice your dance steps. And this was the late 80s, the 90s, and I just, you know, the guys were like, what the fuck is that on stage? I mean, she's dancing to These Boots Are Made for Walking, and she's got boas, and, you know, she's in, I think it's something that might be in us, you know, naturally. We were reincarnated as some famous, you know, burlesque dancers of the past, and it just emotes when we perform. And then I just stumbled upon and staggered the Blue Angel. And from there I just was singing and doing all the stuff I had been doing for years, but taking it like the next step. So I think the first one was, well, besides These Boots Are Made for Walking, whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. Fan dance too, yes.
Wonderful, thank you. So we have those questions coming from the audience is my first question. Get those going. We're going to work on those. And in the meantime, we're going to ask another question, which is a little bit of a follow-up to something Dirty said earlier, when she talked about there being a New York burlesque sensibility. And I imagine that if we were in LA right now, with a stage full of beautiful burlesque babes, that their experiences and stories and ideas would be radically different from what we have here today. So our question is, what makes, can we have some more water, please? Thank you. Oh, great. And the girls over there might need a little splash of Martini, too, I think, is what I saw with Julie's face right there. So,
yes,
what makes,
good.
thank you, and we're just going to make this ad-libby. Raise your hand if you got something to say. Pass the mic around. What makes what you do distinctively New York?
I wish there was a game show button. I want to hit a button. I think that I often talk about the New York City burlesque scene, probably because I live here, but also in comparison, not in a better or worse way than other cities, but just the dynamic involved in New York City burlesque. There's a show every night of the week now, so there's so many opportunities, and that allows a constantly growing pool of new performers, and that creates different tiers of experience, and that creates new shows. So just what I do is distinctively New York because I have so many venues and options to choose from. In other towns, it might be a big deal for them to have one burlesque show a month. So I think the availability of performers and also the fact that we have the School of Burlesque here, it's really, really exciting and important that you can actually take classes. There's a lot of places where you can't do that, and I remember when I started, I definitely, you know, I wish there were classes because it really was just get drunk till they fall out. That was my dance technique. And, but I also think the thing I love about New York City Burlesque just the thing I love about New York City Burlesque on its own period is it's grittier than other cities, and I've often said this, I love Los Angeles so much, and I was an honorary member of the Velvet Hammer Burlesque, along with Dirty and Julie and Kate, and I was so excited to be that, and I would go to their shows the first time they invited me to perform at the El Rey Theater, and I was doing Martini Time, and I was the closing number, and I was so nervous, you guys. I had no spit in my mouth, and I just couldn't believe it. And I was standing there, and I felt like a 99-cent store. I'm not going to lie to you. But that's the beauty of New York. You can go to a 99-cent store and knock them dead here, because there's something very, in the beginning of Lenny Bruce's book, in the foreword, How to Talk Dirty and Influence People, there's a quote that I really love, that the American artist is the grit in the oyster that creates the pearl. So it's like the grit that really creates the beauty in the world. And I just feel like New York City Burlesque, you could not have more sand in your underwear. It's so fantastic. I love it. There's just something in the faces of the performers here and myself that says, I've carried this costume in a bag up 20 flights of stairs this week. You better clap. Subway.
I raised my hand.
Well, all right.
She saw me. Selene, Dirty, and I were in Miami, and we were performing for a Suzanne Barsh party that had absolutely no organization whatsoever. Selene Loon is a burlesque performer in LA, and she's a little person, so you might know who she is just because of that. She's also her name. But Bobby Pins is another firm. Whoever. So she's from LA, and it was one of those fucking messes, right? Where like there's no set list, there's no organization, we don't know what's going on. Dirty, there's no dressing room, and it's like a fucking fancy ass party where we got flown in, put up in a nice hotel, paid, you know, so then they're like, go, dance. So Dirty and I sort of like take the reins, and we're like, okay, so you're gonna go first, I'm gonna go second, so then he's gonna go third. Why don't we get the music? We'll bring it. There's gonna be a space in between. We got the music. I ran back and I was like, ladies and gentlemen, straight from New York City, the amazing Dirty Martini. And Selene, who lives in LA, we picked up each other's costumes. We ran the stuff. And Selene was
Julie helped me blow up my balloons in an alleyway with puddles.
Puddles.
And the wind was blowing so goddamn hard.
And I did my balloon number.
But they were...
Yeah, and there were people drunk, rich people. It was a Suzanne Barsh party. It was horrid.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh yeah, you were there too. You were there too. You were making martinis.
It was 50 martinis in 1 hour.
And Selene literally was like, wow, you guys are so nice to each other. Remember when she said that? She was like, you guys are really helping each other out. Well, you can't get anything done in this city unless you help each other out.
And Bob, at the same time as we were in the alleyway and Julie was blowing up my balloons and going nuts, and I was almost crying because it was like the most impossible, and I was on point shoes, so there was nowhere to lay down and put my leg in the air so that I can actually dance on point like a real person, like who does that shit, you know? So I'm like, meanwhile, while we were doing all of that, she's on like a 50-foot tall platform making 50 martinis with her boobs, pulling olives out of her crotch. So immediately when we got done doing the thing, I run over to Bob. I'm like, my job's over, I'm done. I'm like, Bob, you need any help? You okay?
That's like, that doesn't happen, like, there's a different kind of, I mean, like, it does happen to a degree, but like.
She was very like, I just feel like there's more of a support fan base in other cities. People will like, there's a stage manager, there's like because it doesn't happen as frequently or it's disorganized, that the performer doesn't have to take as much responsibility to make the show itself happen. And that's in our training as New Yorkers.
Right. I mean, I have to say, because I represent sort of both. Careful.
It's fine.
I spent a lot of years, I started doing burlesque in Los Angeles, and then I moved back to New York, which I think of as my home base. But I did shows on both coasts for many, many years. And of course, you know, one of the great things about New York, which is totally my hometown, and you know, I'm a New York sister for sure. The camaraderie here is super great. But I do want to dispel this. I feel like there's a lot of, you know, sort of backdoor gossip about how things were run in Los Angeles. Los Angeles was a sisterhood for me, like for fucking sure. Everyone there was beautiful and fantastic. Because of the geography of the space and because of just the way things worked out there, there was one show a year. And a lot of those girls were coming from a background in fine arts and in costuming. They spent a whole year working on one number. I'm saying, like, for the first 5 years that burlesque was in its nascence, in neo-burlesque, like from 95 to 2000, there was one show a year, and these bitches sewed and stressed about this one number and this one thing, and they blew it the fuck out. It's tits out crazy.
It was humiliating for me.
But, you know, and there was that, but there's, you know, then there's people doing I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, I'm a New Yorker, you know, I mean, whatever. But I'm just saying, if, you know, that they're good girls in LA too.
I love
I was intimidated by some of the things that I had heard people from LA say about strippers, and I found them all to be not that way towards me. Just to say, like, back up what Kate's saying. And one thing that I feel like has had an effect on the way that New York burlesque has developed, kind of quirky, kind of? Would you like to say quirky? Okay. Has been that we are allowed to fail here. You can come here and try out a number because, and it doesn't have to be perfect, so you can experiment a lot. Does that make sense to other people on the panel? And I feel like that really helped me. I don't think anybody would have hired me until I had gotten some chops doing the 3-minute thing, because my experience wasn't with that attention span. But the other thing I think makes a big difference in LA is that they have not just cars, okay, but they have garages. Okay, and we're always trying to fit things in bags and all that stuff. Like, I'm probably more ridiculous with my, like, separate storage space. That's my closet 6 blocks from my house, in between here and my house. But that's one thing that I've seen a lot of, and it's not that that's a better thing, but it's definitely suited to my abilities and my sensibility, that we are allowed to come out and try anything. And here at the Slipper Room, they don't check with you to see what you're doing. They just say, yeah, we trust you. We've seen you perform. We'll do what you will. Do what you will. And even though there have been times when they've gotten in trouble for doing that here, they've gotten tickets or fines or whatever, they've persisted with that. So I think that, like, and also that NEA willingness to be offensive and put things in your ass and stuff like that, it is I don't know if that, I'm not saying it doesn't happen in LA, but I haven't seen it. So I think that in New York, a lot of it just comes out of that ability to experiment, the opportunity to experiment.
I'd like to say, first of all, New York is the center of the fucking universe. So that informs us. But aside from that, there's this huge thing, a big time that we all got this, like, crazy weird chance to discover, because there was this weird zeitgeist of everyone, I invented burlesque, no, I invented, but all these different cities, like, sort of, like anyone invented it, whatever, but we all did the Teaserama 2001 in New Orleans, and we all got in a van, Julie and Kate, Bob and
Kate's
Jerry,
idea,
it was Kate's idea. Actually, these were the Baba Boom Room girls, and I missed the whole thing. But I was like, but I really want to go, and I called Bonnie, and she said I could, like, do a duet with her, so I got a way in, and I just jumped on board and, sort of hitched my way in. But anyway, we all went, and it was great, because it was, for me at least, I mean, Kate's been experienced both coasts, but for a lot of us, we've never seen what's LA's burlesque, what's San Francisco's burlesque, what's New Orleans, what's Denver's, what's Seattle's, what's Vancouver's. They were all there. There were all these different people with their own ideas, and we didn't get the chance to do a whole lot of cross-pollinating yet.
Because the internet wasn't yet invented.
That's right. This is the olden days, children. I'm watching you. No, it's all right, girl. I just thought. Anyway.
Sorry, Tigger.
So we got there, and I felt like something that really came out immediately. Well, shit went down, and the New York girls got a little pissed off, and they put it into their opening number in their fabulous matching outfits. There are 3 different kinds, 4, 5. You know what? By the end of the night, it will be 20. Matching outfits. They had many matching outfits. So when they get off at a rest stop, they all had their velvet with like the silver flames shooting up. They all had their blue Chinese dress.
We had 5.
They all had
only
peach
2
drape.
were custom made. 3 were off the rack.
There you go. Anywho, let it be said, yes, we were like a little more low rent, but they were definitely turning it out on the low rent tip. So they came up and did it, and they were really, the opening night, just threw together this thing that was super bitchy and cunty, and it had shitloads of attitude and presence
I think
and
I ate a hot
food.
dog.
And food. Because we all worked, and what came up a lot was that LA was gorgeous. Unbelievable. I think New York actually upped their ante in terms of glamour after that get-together. But what New York had was chops. Was just fucking chops. Because we work and work and work all the goddamn time for whatever, but we just do it because we don't know what the hell else to do with our lives.
So, because when you think of when somebody's pursuing a career in show business, they go to New York or they go to where LA maybe for film. But if you're pursuing a career in dance or Broadway or whatever, you're going to come to New York. So I think people bring that background with them. And that raises the level of depravity. Yes, yeah. And also performance art. Didn't performance art really come out of New York City? I mean, all over?
I just wanted to say quickly that in New York, particularly, I know that there's a tradition of drag in striptease in Seattle and San Francisco and many cities. But in this city, it never died. Mayor LaGuardia tried to shovel everyone out and make them go to Jersey. But there was still performances, underground performances of people doing striptease, and mostly it was the drag queens that kept it alive until we could fan the flames a little bit more.
Thank you, Dirty. I want to just add something that I think is particularly New York, just because I can't imagine it being anywhere else. Is the opportunities to work here in different contexts is, for me, it's unthinkable to have it anywhere else. And I can say with great pleasure that I've seen so many of these people we have a gig early in the evening, then you go to another place, it's a gay bar, and there's Julie, or there's Dirty, or there's Tigger. Then you go to another place, and the contexts just can shift so radically. You go to Starshine Burlesque and the audience just adores you no matter what you do. You're just adored. Then you go to a tranny club and they despise you just because you walked in with intent to perform. Then you go to the Cock to perform at the Cock. And I get brought in because I'm a little shocking. There's 12 guys masturbating on the bar. What am I going to do? What have I got to show? And and then go to another club to perform, and you're just seen in a completely different context. So, the same material that you create is seen in different venues, so you get to weigh its effect on different audiences, you get to see yourself in different lights, you get to create material for different types of venues and events here. Which, just judging by what you say about LA, it's not my own experience, but if you have one thing a year, you're going to get into a very narrow mindset. And here, you're forced to keep shifting your sights.
I love New York City because if you're too poor to get a new dress, there's always a different party. You can just go find a new group of friends, and they're like, "Oh my God, I love your dress," and you're like, "Thanks, I just got it." But if you wear the same shit anywhere else, they know. They know.
I did be a little devil's advocate for LA. After that, Tease Rami, we definitely up. Okay, the girls up their glamour game. I'm still whatever. Thrift stop. But LA also upped their ante in terms of performing a lot more. I mean, everybody picked up tips, so like, you know, their frequency and chops went up, our glamour and fabulousness went up, and it was very nice.
We all love each other.
Yeah, we love each other.
How's everyone doing? Does anyone need a break? Should we stand up and stretch? Because we're going to keep going. Let's go ahead and stand up and stretch for a little while. Maybe we want to do some spontaneous robot, Bob?
So if you guys want to just stand up, everyone go ahead and stand up. This is audience participation time. I guarantee you're going to have a blast. You can move to a better part of the room or stay right where you are. This is the move that I'm going to offer for people who feel really white. This is your move. It's called I Need Oil. We're going to do the spontaneous robot. This is a great get the blood running exercise. Do we have any music? We don't have any music? Okay, well we're just going to work on some moves then. That's called freestyle. Okay, just hit the acid flashback that was playing earlier at work and you can work it out. So this is called I Need Some Oil, and we're just going to do spontaneous robot for a count of 12, okay? So I'm going to take the mic away to do that. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, then we're going to do it for 12 seconds, and then we're going to act like nothing happened. This is a great exercise in keeping New York City authentic, real, and scaring away the boring, rich, retarded people. Okay, are you guys with me? So 12 seconds of spontaneous robot, then we all grab a cocktail and tip the bartender. Hold on.
1, 2, 3. Let's get some music. We don't have any. Caro! Great idea. Oh, you're sitting. Are you too cool? That's fine.
Well, I guess we're not going to do anything, you know, because that didn't just happen. So feel free to use the powder room or tip your bartender. Are we back? 3, 2, 1. Okay, we got camera set, and we're back.
Great, thank you. How's everyone doing? You know what, let's not be, you know, we don't have to be too formal here. If you want to mill around, get a drink, smoke, go to the bathroom, do what you gotta do. There's some girls backstage doing what they have to do. Did everyone submit their questions is the big question here. If you have any questions, please submit them to Legs or Clams Casino. Hey,
Yes, Lucky?
for any hookers who care to answer this question, how did you come up with your stage name? And this is an audience question.
Mine is a nickname from an old boyfriend from '91. I was go-go dancing on stage at the Pyramid, and I'd been touring with Penny as James Ferguson, and just dealt with it. Didn't quite love it, but I don't know. I'd been rolling with it. But go-go dancing at Pyramid, although, you know, less glamorous in some ways, meant a lot to me, because Pyramid meant everything. So when Gloria Hole, now Wholesome, came around and was like, honey, what's your name? Whatever, you know, she was going to introduce me at the end of the song, and I suddenly made up my own rule that I couldn't make up my name. I had no idea. I had no right, I didn't know what it was to watch me, so I was like, I gotta use a nickname. And my current boyfriend called me Hooker, and that seemed redundant, and the one before that called me Pan, and calling myself a god, even a freaky goatee god. It weirded me out when he said it, and it was just weird. It was just weird. So I couldn't. So the one before that, a couple maybe, said Tigger, and it was just between us for a few months, and it was over. And as I said that, and it took over. That's all.
My name's Bonnie Dunn. I have been performing for 30 years as Bonnie Dunn, so it's like, it's catchy.
I have a very long Italian last name. And when you type it into, Word, that PC program in an office where you're being a secretary like I did for many years, it spell checks Martini. And I thought, I'm tired of those fuckers when you have a program. I perform like maybe twice a year with a modern dance company. And every single time they'd misspell my name, and I was like, I'm tired of it, and I've always wanted to change my name. So I changed it to Linda Martini. And then when the burlesque thing happened to me, I was like, well, that'd be okay. I could use that. That's cool. And then my friend Christopher Eves was like, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if you just called yourself Dirty? I love dirty martinis. Sure enough, we were in a bar in Barcelona in the Gothic district where it had a sign that says in Catalan, absolutely no pounding on the tables. That's what the sign said, and it was for real because the neighbors complained. And yeah, and everybody was trying to be all nice. And, sangria por favor, sangria por favor. And he says, I like a dirty martini up with olives. I was like, yeah, that's my name.
I changed my name to Bob 21 years ago when I was 15 because of Robert Smith from The Cure. And I love Robert Smith from The Cure. The Cure is my favorite group still. And the 3 people in my life then that were like, you're not going to go by that forever can suck me because I'm 36 and I'm still Bob. So good to prove them wrong. So 21 years ago I changed my name to Bob because I was in love with Robert Smith from The Cure, but his nickname given to him by Susie Sue from Susie and the Banshees, which I read about in a teen goth magazine, was really Fat Bob. Like, hey, I'm Fat Bob. You know, like, hey, Fat Bob. So I changed my name 21 years ago to Fat Bob. And I would walk up to you and be like, hi, I'm Fat Bob. And the people that went, no, you're not, I would just roll my eyes and walk away. Because you weren't cool enough to know that that was Robert Smith's nickname. So I was a new wave gothic snob. And anyone who asked what it was, you could not know what it was. Or if you knew what it was, that was fine. But if you thought I was really talking about my weight, it was a great grease cutter. And we just would not become friends. And when I was 19 years old, I realized that I couldn't go by Fat Bob anymore because I was going to meet Robert Smith. I still haven't. And when I was 19, I was like, oh my God, I can't go by Fat Bob because when I meet Fat Bob, I'll be like, hi, I'm Fat Bob, and he'll know I'm a loser. So I decided to just drop the fat and go by Bob. But 11 years ago, when I was 25 years old, I was getting ready to perform. I think it was, I'm not sure where it was, but Jackie Beat turned to me and she said, my drag mother, who should give you your name, right? She said to me, you know, it sounds a little flat, like, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bob. Like, it's cool that you come out and you're a girl, or you look like a girl, and your name's a man, or it sounds like a man, but it's kind of not enough. So she named me world famous Bob 11 years ago, and 3 years ago, in 2 months, I changed it legally. So I do not have a stage name. My first name is World, my middle name is Famous, and my last name is Bob, which makes finding straight guys to date really interesting.
My name came from, Bambi was my baby name because I used to also work in the world of fetish, and I specialized in infantilism, and I worked as a professional baby for many years. So I was baby Bambi, and baby Bambi, went on to become a snake charmer, and then through all my, millions of years at the Mermaid Parade and my associations with Coney Island, people just started calling me Bambi the Mermaid because they, would see me perform and be in the parade and everything, so it sort of segued on its own.
I want to do mine because the same person named me. The same person named me that named Bambi, actually. My partner in the fetish industry was married to a man named Joe. And I would walk in, and she'd say, Joe just walked in. She'd be on the phone. She's never not on the phone, right? She'd be on the phone, and they'd go, oh, tell him hello. And she'd go, no, Joe Boobs. And so I was Joe Boobs. And then Remy Vicious started introducing me as Joe Boobs at the Blue Angel, and then Angie Pontani put it on a flyer. And so, like, one thing I think about when I'm working with students and they're talking about coming up with their stage name, I had absolutely no concept of coming up with a stage name that I was going to perform. Before I moved to New York, I sold all my costumes and props. I was like, I'm done performing. Don't ever say that. Don't, you performers, don't even think about it. Okay, but anyway, and my old stage name was Tanya Hyde. And I hadn't used it in 8 years, and someone else was using it. Yeah, I was on Robin Bird as Tanya Hyde. And I was not doing burlesque. But I was pulling something out of my ass. So I was pulling pearls. Never mind. Anyway, but just the thing, like Joe Boobs, like I had no idea that was going to be my stage name, and now I kind of have to like not use it sometimes because it messes up spam filters. It makes it hard to do, say, a business proposal, like that kind of thing. But I just loved it because I'm all about, you know, like I mean, yeah, boobs, you know. But when I use it in email, I usually spell it with $2 instead of 2 O's.
I moved to New York City, and I was sitting in Tompkins Square Park with this hot Dominican bodybuilder that I had befriended. And he was like, Julie Atlas. That sounds good. So, and I was like, but Fernando, my last name is Muse. That's a really pretty name too. He's like, okay. So, Julie Atlas Muse. And my born middle name is Anne. So it's like it still works on the bank statements, and like they'll chat, and I've gone on an airplane and all that shit, even though like on my ID it says Julie Ann Muse, and then if it's a domestic flight, they'll still honor that. they call me Julie Ann sometimes at home.
James Tigger Ferguson, James Edgar Ferguson, Julie Atlas Muz.
Yeah, it works. It's okay. The middle name's okay.
I like that. I never knew how many of us had our names given. That's all.
I just like that.
Well, your name is your name. See, that's the thing that's difficult too. Is like I couldn't have a double name like Dirty Martini or Linda Marasini because it's too confusing. You know, I find it very confusing. Like I can pretty much learn one name per person, and even that is really lucky.
And all the LA girls had two. I was so confused.
Yeah, all the LA girls
Oh my
had
God, they
2
changed it
stage
with,
names.
like,
Oh.
With a number.
With a number.
Back early in the year 2000, I was doing drag woodworking demonstrations for the Brini Maxwell TV show. And, you know, what to say. I've been involved in woodworking stuff since I was just tiny. And so, in the world of wood, ebony is the king of woods, and rosewood is the queen of woods. So I said, okay, rosewood, queen of woods.
All right, if anyone has any more questions, go ahead and pass those up. We have another audience question. What would you want to see more of from, sorry, it's a typo. What would you like to see more from the newer generations of performers in New York? I.e. higher costume values, more traditional elements, etc., etc. What would you like to see from new? All right.
I mean, unless they want to, but.
So let's skip the IE and go back to the original question. What would you like to see from new New York performers? And we'll pass it over to Dirty
Well,
and
it's
Bob.
interesting that you talk about costume, and what was the other one? It was the example?
And more traditional.
Yeah, more traditional or costume or that. I'd just like to comment on that, like we were saying, you know, we had a lot of time to develop what we do, and we had the luxury of doing it a lot, and so pieces would leave and pieces would come in, and we'd upgrade and all that stuff. So, you know, I can pretty much tell the age of a performer, how long they've been doing burlesque by how comfortable they are in front of an audience, what their costume is like, all this. what their shoes look like, you know, and it's totally cool. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think the important thing is that new performers just come and fucking do it and try and say what's in their heart, what they really want to do, and not try and copy some idea of something that somebody did 400 years ago. You know, it's not important. What we want to hear is what's from your heart and what you have to say. If it's bad or it's fun or if it's joyous or it's gross, you know, fucking do it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And that's what I feel.
I agree with Dirty. When I meet new burlesque performers, I try to emphasize to people not to worry about having a new number all the time. Oftentimes I'll see somebody and I'll comment on their number and then I'll ask them to do my new review, or I'll say, oh, what do you know, when are you performing again? And they'll be like, oh, well, I have to come up with a new number. And I've been doing Martini time for 12 years. So, you know, I think it's kind of like your repertoire is like a cast iron skillet. I'm sorry, this is such a bad analogy, but you don't want to like scrub it with soap after every meal. You know, you just really want to let the flavors sit in the G-string. Febreze is a nice thing, and hand washing. Don't be afraid to wash your wigs, take my class. But I agree with Dirty, just whatever's in your heart, that's what you should express. And there's nothing that replaces experience. Like, you can sit and have the most perfect dress in the world. You can have the most beautiful song. You can have the best intention. You can have the most gorgeous wig and flawless makeup. And if there isn't an in your gut reason for you to be on stage, it shows. So just do it. If it's in your gut, that's why you should do it. And don't worry about having all of the bells and whistles, because if you're working from your gut, you'll do it. You'll just keep doing it, and all the bells and whistles will come. The one thing I would love to see is bigger hair. Just my personal thing, I love wigs and pieces and balls. So that's why I'm not just doing this to plug my class. I do have an onstage beauty wig class, but it's just because I love options, and a wig shop is just like 1,000 different ways to be when you walk in. It's just this overwhelming sense of freedom, like you can do whatever you want with your look. So my only suggestion is work from your gut. Don't worry about having a new number every week. Focus on having a great number. And if you love a number so much that you can do it for 12 years, guess what? The audience is gonna love it too. And if you're up there and you're not content with the number, then, you know, maybe that's when there's room to work on something new. But if there's something you really love to do on stage, just keep doing it, and it's just going to get better and better and better.
I have to add to what I said too. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I forgot to add that I was talking to Dixie Evans, the owner of the Burlesque Museum, and we were talking about what's different from old to new burlesque, and she said, you know, honey, the one thing that's really missing in the new burlesque scene is foot soldiers. Everybody wants to be a burlesque star, and you need to have a lower level. You need to have foot soldiers. Right out of the mouth of Dixie Evans.
I had a really good idea. I'd kind of like to issue it as sort of a challenge, possibly. I was just, when you said that, the first thing I thought of was how amazing it would be if the newbies put on a show where they like parodied each of us. Like, wouldn't that be awesome?
Not from this interview, though.
No, like our classic acts, you know, like sort of reinvented them, or why not?
Well, because
I'll speak for me. I love to see reflections of myself.
Oh,
Yes,
that would
Julie?
be hysterical. Well, sometimes it's like people are like, Julie, I made this number and I thought of you, and then they kill like a baby bunny and like smear the blood all over themselves. I'm like, Julie, this is for you, and I'm like.
I think that's awesome.
Okay,
but not like a paying homage kind of thing, but like a, you know, a real parody.
Tribute with right of refusal? How's that?
I mean, it's cool. You do whatever you want. You do whatever you want. Just fine.
No, Julie, nobody does Julie. Leave Julie out.
that's cool.
Julie doesn't want to be left out.
More questions? Go ahead and pass those up in front. Hi Della. I have a question myself, which is going to segue from some of the things we've just been talking about, and hopefully will allow us to open up some more conversation. We get this question a lot. What is the future of burlesque? And okay, hold on, put your hand down, Joe, because that's not my question. Because I feel, you know, to some degree we can't sort of control the media, we can't control like what's actually happening. So instead of that question, I would like to ask, which taps into that sentiment, if you could play the burlesque movie that's in your head, and I'm going to pass the mic to Bob first. If you could play the burlesque movie that's in your head, what would that movie look like?
The burlesque movie in my head is called Oodles of Poodles. And it's a huge theater in Las Vegas, and the runway is mirrored with pink shag carpet, and there's beveled, multifaceted backdrop mirrors, and all the girls come out with coordinating matching poodles dyed to match their huge cotton candy wigs on Swarovski leashes. And they do Bugsby Berkeley style walking to reveal beautiful candy-coated fans that open up upon the triad of burlesque, the blonde trilogy of burlesque. Me, Dirty, and Julie eating candy. That's the opening scene. So it's like 40 standard poodles dyed really gay colors with men in hot pants, and then lots of mirrors and pink shag carpet, and there's just this beautiful balcony with all the legends of burlesque. And the definition of legend is someone who has nothing to prove and everything to give. So it's just like this huge balcony of all the legends, and Dixie's right in the middle, like the crown jewel, and they're all just up there sparkling and waving to us while we eat candy.
And give blowjobs.
I play that every day. I know. That's a big question.
Actually, I have an audience question.
Okay. Yeah. What can they answer this one?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think we have.
It's maybe a zone of silence.
Simple practical thing about burlesque future, and it comes from the support of people who are interested in burlesque. Because if there are no burlesque venues, there's no burlesque. If there aren't clubs and people to come and who appreciate it, there aren't opportunities for performers to come and do their thing. So it's really the club owners who play a very large part in the future of burlesque.
And the audience.
And the audience who comes out and supports. I mean, I'm always delighted when I see fellow performers there in the audience. It's real support, and that's what's creating the future of burlesque. More than what one person is going to do. Are they going to do fans? Are they going to do glamour? Are they going to? That doesn't really tell the future, because there's a business side to it which can't be overlooked. To the club owners.
Now that you will never see in a strip joint. It's true, yeah. I just wanted to say this because I was thinking about this article that I just read, and your question reminded me of it. I was reading this article about the death of burlesque, and it was in Fortune magazine in February 1935. And I know when I was working in strip joints, it was always like, oh, the good old days. Everything was so great a year ago. Everything was so great 5 years ago. And then, and it just is endless. Like, it's like burlesque is always dying. Like, one thing I'd like to see, like, people are always like, oh, burlesque is over, this fad is over, this fad is over. What you were saying about audiences, as long as club owners are willing to have it, and a lot of times I think we forget how kind of edgy it actually is. Like, it could be taken away from us. Don't make no mistake. It used to be on Broadway, and they took it away, right? So, club owners for standing up for it. And audiences, my favorite thing to see newcomers do, actually, is bring people to shows. They bring people to see their shows. They continue the audience. The future of burlesque basically just remains at people hearing about burlesque and being interested in it. And I have a little collection on my desktop of articles titled Bringing Back Burlesque. And they go back for decades. So, you know, a lot of times it's a change of context or something like that. But I just feel like a little faith is nice. Nobody wants to play the burlesque movie that's running in their minds? Are you joking? This is it, really.
Yeah.
What? I mean, yeah, we all want to live in Bob's movie. Oh, I have to stand up? Oh, God. Hi, everybody. You actually, this is a good segue because a couple of you touched on this already in general. How have audiences changed? I mean, this is something, again, it's come up a couple of times, but I'm curious sort of the group perspective on, I think obviously audiences have changed just since I've been seeing burlesque shows, and which is the last 7 years or so. So, you know, I'm just curious to hear your perspective on that, since you started as performers and as venues have changed and more shows. And what was the audience like then and now? Where has it gone?
The weirdest thing for me was to go to an airport and say that I do burlesque and have the clerk at the airplane counter know what burlesque meant.
I was with you.
Yeah. And we looked at each other, we're like, what, really? And they're like, yeah, it's a burlesque show. I think it was downtown in LA somewhere. You know, I don't go downtown that often, but I do know that, yeah, I saw a burlesque show. So I think audiences are more informed about what burlesque is, so now there's a sort of level of understanding of what you're going to get when you come in that we didn't have early on.
I have to say with Lay Scandal, I mean, I get people from, you know, mothers with their 15-year-old daughters and people in their 70s. I did a show that started one time at 7 o'clock, and these blue-haired women were coming in with walkers. How did they hear about it? And they went to come to see the vaudeville show. That's what I heard them say. So, yeah, vaudeville show.
Well, there's this disease called nostalgia. So, like Joe was talking about, talking about burlesque, talking about, oh, last year you missed it, which is exactly the same as New York. Whenever you move to New York, I'm sure you heard about how you just missed it. How this thing just happened. I came in the 80s and I heard about how I just missed, like, the most incredible, amazing time. And then I turn around and tell people the exact same thing. And so there's a danger that we'll sink a little into that. We get a little fond of the olden days when we were less jaded and all. But I'll say pros of the old days were watching people's faces walking in, never having a clue what the fuck was going to happen to them. There was no frame of reference, burlesque, and the whole thing, is this a titty bar, is this a titty bar? And the very different expressions that question would bring on a man versus a woman was fascinating. And then seeing their faces change over the course of the night, watching Julie and Dirty perform, and then I get up and they're like, but I mean, God knows their faces have gone through some twists and turns with them, and then they're like, I give up, I don't know, whatever. And that was great. But it's also really, I mean, obviously helped us a lot. We can get nostalgic for the old days, but we've actually gotten to travel a little and do nice stuff, and that never happened in the olden days. So, olden days were nice, but it's very nice to get to travel and to teach and crazy shit I never thought in a million years I'd do with this lark. So, it's changed and that's fine.
Here. One of the things that I'd like to add is I was reading recently a little review of this filmmaker's film on the prison pronunciation, Abu Ghraib, in Iraq. And supposedly it's just so graphic and horrifying, and it was shown at the Museum of Modern Art. And he was asked if he felt that recent events in the world have led to to kind of desensitizing to a level of graphic exposure. And he said definitely it takes a lot more to shock or to disturb the American public. And you know, the same audience that goes to see horror movies needs more and more to get that thrill. And he said that, you know, so I think that the, you know, what has become commonplace for audiences today has, you know, certain things have become more commonplace. And so just to see a naked woman on a pole is just not a new image. So to see a variation on that for most Americans is a new thing. And I think as well, a response that I hear a lot that, you know, we've talked about before is that a lot of people came to New York for the new and the edgy and the creative, and since the political climate in recent years has been more suppressive, and a lot of places and a lot of freedoms that we had publicly have been shut down, that there's a kind of a gratitude from people when they see something that's a little edgier and a little further out of the mainstream than they had previously seen.
In the, I just say, like, on a very pragmatic sensibility, the numbers are more consistent now than they were before. Let's say, you know, God knows, almost a decade ago, you would never know if it would be really, really full or really, really dead. You would really, really never know whether it would be that way. And now you can pretty much, you can base your Saturday night on a fiscal guarantee, at least at the Slipper Room. You know, like, you know that you're gonna get, with so many X number of people paying, you know, $5 to get in here, you're going to be able to pay 5 or 6 performers $100 as a guarantee. So that is something that's a big change, and the producer necessarily won't always eat all that money like it was, you know, in days before. However, I had 2 different points. Oh, and then also burlesque. The word burlesque has become a very touchy word. Like, some people really hate it. They hate it. Oh no. Go to the box and audition as a burlesque performer. Good fucking luck. They will not even let you in the door. You know, so I'm just saying that burlesque is a really, really, like, oh, we don't like burlesque. But at the same time, yeah, no, yeah, and I can't do burlesque at the box. I only do Mr. Pussy. I do my hardcore performance art. Well, it's not really hardcore, but it is hardcore. Whatever, not about me. But simultaneously, the season after, there was no female head show in the entire spring programming of BAM. The season after, the fall season of BAM, that was the spring season, and then the fall season of BAM, there was the Burlesque of America. I remember reading the brochure word for word and seeing the word burlesque and literally almost laying an egg. I was like, holy fuck. Because I wrote a letter to the artistic director of BAM and being like, there's not one female-headed show. You gotta be fucking kidding me. You know, you got like Chinese people, you got black people, you got white people, you got everybody, but you don't have any women. Oh, you know, sometimes it just happens that way. Yeah, it happens that way for like, you know, 400 years, you son of a fucking... Anyway. I've had a drink. But I would like to say that but the way that the audience has stayed the same is that they respond to unconditional love the same way. If you go out to an audience that's of 3 people in 2014, or you go out to a packed house of 1,700 people in Chicago in 2004, and you love them with every fucking inch of your body that you didn't even know you had, they will love you back. And that is the same, and will remain the same, I believe, forever.
Yeah, baby.
Right. You know, I feel like what I'm about to say might put a slight dent in the love fest, which I don't want to do, but I kind of do. I mean, I think in terms of audience, I think that from a performer's perspective or a producer's perspective, it doesn't matter as long as there's asses in the seats. Like, they don't need to be your best friends. you know, you see it like as people
If
talk.
they're
It's
your best friends, they probably aren't.
it's a question of commerce. But what I find personally disappointing is that in the last 12 years or so that I've done burlesque, it's gone from what's burlesque to ooh burlesque to oh burlesque. I find that like they look at me like they know what it is and they don't seem to think it's so great, and I find that disconcerting. And I think the onus is on us as performers. I think burlesque means a lot of different things to a lot of people, and they approach it for different reasons. Some people want to sort of find self-acceptance within their bodies, or some people want to, have a group of people. They have like a coffee clatch of friends, and this is like a bonding thing between their peers. And some people approach it because they're artists, and this is another vein through which they're performing their art. But I think that if you're charging money for people to come and see you, it should be good. But good is a very hard term to define. But one thing that I'd like to suggest, I really loved what Bob had to say about suggestions for new performers, and I don't want to discourage anyone from doing anything in any kind of way. But I do want to suggest that any kind of art is about communication. Performance art or any kind of art is about you trying to say something to other people. And I think if you're on stage because you just need to work something out, that's your living room. That's what your living room is for. Or, you know what I mean? It's for you and your friends, or for you and your lover, or, you know what I mean? Or you and your therapist. Or for a free crowd, or a cheap seat. It's not for people paying $20 to get in plus a drink minimum for you to work out your issues on stage. It should be more generous than that in terms of you thinking about what do I have to bring to bear that's intrinsic to me from my gut, as Bob was saying, but something that says something to other people. You know what I mean? So that's what I'd like to say for new performers.
Is it excessive to add on to that? Just as things go on, there's this constant, people want to know what is burlesque, whatever, there's this constant need to define burlesque, and we all know I have issues with that. And I think in terms of the future of burlesque, as well as audiences for burlesque and new burlesque performers, what's important is that you don't just make burlesque about burlesque. That you don't cannibalize the art form. They don't just try to do this thing because it seems burlesque. Like Bob was saying, bring what's in you. That is the thing we can't do. Nobody here on the stage can bring you. That is your job, and we want you, please, for fuck's sake, to do it. And just as they write more books and do more seminars and lectures and everything and articles, they're going to try more and more and more to define what burlesque is, and more people will be going, oh, burlesque. It's up to you to fucking surprise them. Now, that doesn't mean you just change it just for the fuck of it, but make it fit you. And if you just do it the way it works for you, that will surprise them. That's the thing. You don't go for shock just for the fuck of it, although I might be seen to sometimes do that. Really, I'm trying to do something that makes sense to me. I'm trying to make it fit me, and I feel like that's the best way I can serve the art form. And that is all I would ask of anyone who takes the stage. And make it entertaining, goddammit. They deserve that.
One very, very quick thing. I'm sorry, Bonnie, I know I cut you off twice. I think that there's a trap, especially with the new codification of burlesque, and there's something that's really wonderful with all the schools and all their classes, and we've talked about this. All the wonderful information that's given to you when you pay a price, and you get to know this really codified, well-defined, well-thought-out structure, and and it's just like the same trap as being pretty, and I feel like it can be very limiting. So I don't know, I teach at Jo Boobs' school, I teach it at Indigo School, and I love it, and I think it's really, really great. But I think that also there is an artistic trapped there. And I just really would caution you to take, like, this is my friend Pavel Liska, who was a theater director that we both performed with, and so did Dirty, and he got fucking panned every time. And then he just went to this Columbia School of Directing, and now he's fucking fancy pants. You're gonna see him at BAM. He's been like premiering all of his shows in Europe and then coming and doing them in New York City. And he said to me, he's like, you know, Julie, you go, you study, you get good grades in school, and then you burn all your books.
Exactly. You take the boat across the river, then you leave the boat behind. Okay, something like that. Something, but when you asked the question about how burlesque is different in New York, and this also ties in with the audience and what you were saying about people being a little bit desensitized, is that, you know, have fun with the two, because I see that New York is really different than a lot of the other scenes with the humor and the kind of self-mocking, and there's really this whole tongue-in-cheek and irony, and we really don't take ourselves that seriously, you know, so I don't see that in a lot of other burlesque scenes, you know, we're really kind of, you know, there's a punchline, there's always a punchline, and it's not just about the beautiful costumes and everything. you were speaking so well.
Ladies and gentlemen, just in the spirit of what we've been talking about tonight, there's a burlesque show tonight here, right here, live on stage. A burlesque show. And it's called Butte. Oh, the band is Butte. And there's a burlesque show starring, I think, Harvest Muse. Ladies and gentlemen, Lady Lucerne and Ruby Fizz. So, if you came to see this amazing panel, then, and you want to stay, that's great. However, go pony up $5 at the door, por favor. But in the meantime, I just want to thank Legs, Clams, and Brett for organizing this amazing evening. I want to thank all you beautiful people for coming. I hope that we answered some of your questions. And before we part, we're going to have one more round robin. A little bit of a on the downside morbid question.
It's nice to end on a tear. Thanks.
Regardless of whether or not you want to be cremated, what do you want written on your tombstone? 12 words or less. Go.
Okay, go. Julie's ready. I already know. I'm ready. All right, suck my box. That's what I want to write to.
Mine's gonna say world famous Bob. I can't believe I ate the whole thing.
I would like to have a mermaid sculpture on my tombstone and just my name, just like Nijinsky in Paris. But now that I have the microphone, I'd also like to plug on May 8th here is Teal Boy and the Blondes 2. Thursday, May 8th here at show's gonna start 10:30, 11. Naked pie fight with the mutant. Yo, bitches, you don't want to miss this shit. Dirty's in it, Tigger's in it, I'm in it, Bambi's in it, Bunny's in it, and Matt Fraser from London is in it. So May 8th, Thursday, don't you fucking miss it.
Let no man write my epitaph. Tigger. He played. I don't know.
No, either. What was I thinking? Oh, no. She did it all and had a ball.
I've got two. I'm gonna feel like I'm doing a beatbox. I, like Julie, would love a sculpture of myself, maybe 10 pounds thinner. That's always great. And it should say, Dirty Martini changed the world. I hope.
I don't want a tombstone. I want to be created and cremated and sprinkled somewhere. But if it had to say something that there's nothing left. Everything was given while I was alive.
My tombstone would say I love Bambi. Forever. What would yours say, Bambi?
I would just have a question mark. And on that, we will end the evening. Thank you, ladies. Oh, wait, hold on, Jo.
Thank you,
Jo.
Lucky. Some of us have been spending some time with CBS Sunday Morning News for the past few weeks. God only knows what they'll leave in and they'll take out. But CBS Sunday Morning, April 27th, they're having something about burlesque, and we might be in it because they interviewed us for hours. Okay.
Thank you, Lucky. You rock.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lucky. And one more big round of applause for everyone on the stage. And if your question that you were so kind to pass in didn't get answered, it was for a specific performer or about the School of Burlesque, for example, these are wonderful, accessible, fabulous people. Come up and introduce yourself if you don't know them and ask them, and they would love to talk to you about it. So thank you all for coming.